Your e-mountain bike can take you to some pretty amazing places and can often mean spending a lot of time in the saddle. So it's really important to make that whole bike feel as comfortable as possible. So today's video, we're taking a look at the ways you can make your e-bike feel more comfortable when you hit the trails. Now it all begins with making sure you're on the actual right size of bike to actually fit you as well. And a really good way of doing this is by going to the manufacturer's website. They're often add a size guide to it. Just make sure you're actually on the right size of bike to begin with. Now size and fit are actually different things, and fit is something you can actually adjust on your e-bike. And Steve's done a really good video about this already, so make sure you check that one out. Now we're going to start with our first point of contact, and that obviously is your tyres. And tyres can make a big difference on the way that your e-bike is going to feel out on the trails. Too hard a tyre means that the tyre isn't going to perform as to the manufacturer's specifications. It means that it's going to deflect off every little bump on the trail. It's not going to give you a lot of feedback from the trail either. It's really just going to be skidding around all over the place. It might roll a little faster, but it definitely isn't going to be as the manufacturer's designed it. And vice versa, if the tyre is too low a pressure, you're going to have a lot of washing going on from that tyre. It's going to feel really unpredictable, and it's also going to drag a lot as well, and that means draining your battery and a slower rolling tyre. Now tyre pressure is definitely a really hot debate, and one pressure that might work for one person in a different location is going to be different to how you're going to ride your trail. So just mess around with that tyre pressure. Rough ballpark figure, it's going to be 25 to 30 psi for general trail use. You can drop it a little bit if you're a lighter rider, and obviously depends on how hard you're going to hit those turns and the type of trails you're going to be riding. If you're going to be riding rocky, high-speed terrain, then you might need to raise that tyre pressure up a little. And vice versa, if you're riding smooth cross-country or fire roads, you can get away with a higher pressure tyre, which is obviously going to roll faster, and you're not going to need as much grip or predictability as a softer tyre. Another contact point on an e-bike is going to be the pedals. Now you might want to swap these out from the original factory fitted ones, because they're usually going to be plastic. They're not that comfortable and they're not that durable, especially if you're doing proper mountain biking. Now I suggest swapping them out for an alloy platform pedal like the Crank Brothers stamp that we use here on EMBN. These are available in actually small and large. So if you're a big footed rider, you've got these large pedals which are going to give you a lot more support out on the trail. Your foot's going to sit on there a lot better versus a small pedal, and vice versa. If you've got small feet, you can get the small pedals that are going to fit your feet a lot better, give you a lot more support. Obviously if you're a clip pedal user, you might want to think about getting a pedal with a bit more of a cage around it. It's going to give your foot a lot more support. And the cleats that you're using, if you are experiencing any discomfort, you might want to look for a brand that's going to offer a little bit more float in that cleat. So a lot of customization you can actually do and get comfortable on these pedals. You're going to be spending a lot of time in the saddle on your e-bike. Now obviously these come in a wide range of sizes, lengths, widths, compound, male or female, loads of different options on there with different cutouts. So make sure you're getting the right saddle is really important. Now a lot of people suffer from saddle soreness when it comes to riding an e-bike because you're in the saddle a lot of the time. Now there is e-bike specific ones as well with a big curve on the back, different compounds, and some of those rails might actually move around to give you a little bit more float in the saddle, so they're worth looking at. But the thing that I recommend that you do is get along to a saddle, a specialist saddle dealer or your local bike shop. They can actually measure your sit bones where you sit on the saddle to make sure you're buying the right saddle to suit your pelvis and your hips and things like that, to make sure you're getting the most comfortable use out of that saddle. When it comes to the saddle, there's a couple of adjustments you can make which might make your e-bike feel a little bit more comfortable. Now, obviously one is sliding the saddle forward in the rails or backwards. That way you can increase or decrease the reach of that top tube, especially when seated. So if you're feeling a little bit bunched up, you can slide it backwards, make that weight go to the rear of the bike, or you can slide it forwards and get your weight more towards the front of the bike when you're seated. So that's a really good one. And obviously the tilt of the saddle you can adjust on these two bolts here. If you're feeling a bit of pressure from the front of the saddle, then I suggest you rock it down, so let the nose of the saddle drop. Or if you're feeling a bit of pressure from the rear of the saddle, you can drop that as well, so tilt the back of it down. It's just, you want to feel really neutral and making sure your sit bones are nicely on that saddle. You're not feeling any discomfort at all. Now seat height is something that's definitely critical when you're out and about on the trails. If you've got your seat too high, it means that your pelvis and your hips are going to flex down on every downward pedal stroke. If it's too low, you're not going to be getting that maximum power out of your legs. So just make sure when that saddle is raised at its full height, you've got a little tiny bend in your leg at the bottom of the pedal stroke. Too high or too low, you're going to be paying the price. Now moving towards the front of the bike, there's a bunch of adjustments we can do here. First up, I want to start with the grips. Now OE grips, or the standard grips that come on your e-bike, might be a little bit more harsh and made from cheaper rubber, so I suggest a grip upgrade. It's one of the best ones you can do. Now obviously they come in a wide range of compounds, soft rubber, hard rubber. You need to suit one that's going to suit your style of riding and how much you ride your bike. Obviously a soft compound grip is really good at absorbing shock from the trail, but it's going to wear out fast, versus hard compound, obviously going to last a lot longer, but will be a little bit more harsher ride. Loads of different widths and things like that as well. Just make sure your grip is wide enough so when you stick your hand around it, you've got a good grasp of it. Too thin a grip, it's actually going to make your hand a lot more bunched up. You want to get a good handful of grip in there. Make sure you're getting a lot of support from it. Now handlebars is something that a lot of riders upgrade. Now there's a lot of different choices in these, and one is obviously the height of the handlebar itself can make a big difference, or the rise if you want to call it that. The big difference in the way that the bike's going to ride. A big higher rise handlebar is going to sit you up a bit more on the bike. It's going to give you a bit more of a higher riding position, a bit more comfortable, versus obviously a flat handlebar, which is going to drop your weight more forward, a lot more front biased. It's not as comfortable as a riser bar, but just messing around with different height bars can make a big difference to the way that your bike feels. Now bar width is definitely a hot topic. Now stock e-bikes come with 800mm wide handlebars standard. Normally trim them down a little bit to 780 for me and Steve. And if you're a smaller rider, you might want to think about even going to 760. If you're running too wide a handlebar, it actually moves your weight forward. As your hands go out, it moves your weight forward to the stem. So getting that bar width is really critical to get the most comfortable feeling out of your e-bike. Obviously, as is rolling the bars forward or backwards, you can rotate these in the faceplate of the stem by just undoing these bolts here. There is a definite sweet spot as well. Just when you're cutting those handlebars down on width, just make sure you don't go too crazy, because if you cut too much off, you obviously can't replace it. Now at the front of the bike, under or on top of the stem, you're going to find a few different spaces. Now these you can swap around to on top of the stem, meaning you can drop the stem right down to the top of the headset, therefore you're lowering the front end and getting your weight more over the front of the bike. Or you can add all those spaces underneath the stem and effectively raise the stem up quite a lot, actually, by sort of 40-50mm height on that handlebar. Therefore it's going to increase your comfort on the bike. It's going to remove your weight slightly more to the rear of the bike. So just mess around with those. As you can see on my one, I've kind of got one above and a couple beneath the stem, so I can swap that around. I haven't actually dialed in this. I might actually go sticking one underneath to get a bit more height on that handlebar, making my e-bike feel a bit more comfortable. Now the stem on your e-mountain bike can obviously make a big way that the bike's going to feel when you hit the trails. Now a short little stem is ideal for doing those technical downhill style kind of riding, whereas a longer stem is actually going to make you feel a bit more stretched out on the bike, and it's going to make those climbs a lot easier as well, meaning that your weight's going to be more biased on the front wheel, therefore you're not going to be doing power wheelies up every single little climb. You might also feel a little bit of back pain as well when you're riding, so maybe you want to shorten that stem and bring your cockpit backwards and raise it a little bit. So I mentioned you get different rise stems, so that can alter the height of the handlebar. You get a flat rise stem or a high rise stem. It's going to alter the way that that bike's going to feel massively. So stem length, stem rise is a vitally important one to try and customize to get that ideal comfort level on your e-bike. Now one of the things you definitely want to get dialed in for comfort on your e-mountain bike is the suspension. If it's too stiff or too much air in the system, it's going to feel horrible. Every single lump and bump is going to be amplified through the bike. Also, you're going to feel a lot more fatigued out on those technical trails. The suspension is there to save you from all those lumps and bumps. So if it's set up wrong, it's going to feel horrible. Obviously vice versa, if it's too soft, you're going to get pitched towards the front of the bike if your fork is too soft, or towards the rear of the bike. So making sure there's a balanced feeling in that suspension is vital. And whilst you're in there setting the suspension up, needless to say, make sure that shock is always in the open position. A lot of the rear shocks are going to have lockout on them as well. So obviously lockout means the suspension is exactly that. The whole shock is going to be locked out and it's not going to work. So just make sure you're running it in the open position. That way the shock's going to be fully open and fully able to absorb all those big hits. So there you go, I really hope you've enjoyed today's video and all those little tips and tricks to make your next e-bike ride even more comfortable than usual. Really hope it works out for you. But don't forget, if you've enjoyed today's video, be sure to check out 100K the fun way, that one's just down here, and check out how to buy the right size bike for you, that one's down here. Don't forget to smash the globe in the middle to subscribe to EMBN and click the little bell to make sure you receive all the notifications when we upload a new video. Give us a thumbs up if you've enjoyed it, drop some comments in the box below about how you set your e-bike up to be more comfortable, and we'll see you in the next vid.